Welcome back everybody, I'm Jiran Khabi, your host, and today I'm going to react to a video called You'll Never Look at Speed Racer the Same Way Again. Now for new updates and content you can visit the links in the description down below, and let's get started. Enjoy.
You are watching the most advanced designed and one of the fastest racing cars in the world. It's called the Mach 5. Watch it really go.
Here comes Speed Racer.
Most fans never knew the full story. The version you watched was a carefully edited, sanitized shadow of something far darker and wilder. This video breaks down exactly how Speed Racer ended, what got cut before it ever reached your eyeballs, and why this show felt so different from everything else on the dial.
Trixie would have to pay with her life.
It wasn't Saturday morning fluff. It had real weight. And that weight is exactly why it stuck around in people's memories the way it did.
The first trial will begin in exactly 1 minute. Stand by!
The heroes we wanted to be. Speed Racer, known as Go Mifune in the original Japanese series, was the kind of hero that made you want to be better just by watching him. Young, fearless, burning with competitive fire. But what separated him from every other cartoon hero of the era was that moral backbone. Speed didn't cheat. Even when the villain was cheating right in front of him, even when losing meant humiliation or real danger, Speed played it straight. He was the athlete your dad pointed at and said, "That's how you compete." His family anchored everything. Pops Racer, his father and the builder of the Mach 5, was the gruff but deeply loving patriarch who had poured his life's work into that car. There was real tension between them. Speed had broken away from his father's racing team to prove himself independently, and that dynamic gave the show an emotional undercurrent most cartoons of that era never attempted. The Mach 5 wasn't just a cool car with gadgets. It was his father's dream, pressed into metal and given wheels. Then there was Spritle, Speed's mischievous little brother, and Chim Chim, his pet chimpanzee. Every great adventure needs comic relief, and these two provided it with maximum chaos. They were constantly stowing away in the Mach 5's trunk, turning up at the worst possible moments, and somehow surviving situations that had no business ending well. Kids loved them because they recognized themselves in them. Too young to be in the action, too stubborn to stay out of it. Racer X gets his own section, but the short version is this. Once you understand who he really is, it changes how the entire series feels.
Trixie and I were captured by the evil femur, who threatened that unless I drove to a distant pyramid, retrieved the statue of Isis atop it, and returned...
The women who made hearts race. Trixie was not a background decoration. She was Speed's girlfriend and arguably the most capable person in his orbit. While Speed was behind the wheel, Trixie was often above it, literally, piloting a helicopter, running aerial reconnaissance, scouting danger ahead, and coordinating rescues with calm, confident precision. She was the practical intelligence of the whole operation. What made Trixie genuinely notable, especially for a show from the late 1960s, was that she didn't just wait and worry. She flew into danger zones, gathered real intelligence, and made decisions that saved lives. She was fiercely loyal without being passive, and she had a sharp wit that matched Speed's energy, rather than just supporting it from the sidelines. For a lot of young boys watching at the time, Trixie was probably the first TV character who made it clear that the girl in the story could be just as essential as the hero, sometimes more so. She was Speed's co-pilot in every sense of the word.
Scared. The frightened guy finishes last. Go, Speed, go. If you're scared, just step on the gas. Push that accelerator down to the floor.
The villains we loved to hate. The real strength of Speed Racer's villain structure was its variety. Rather than building toward one overarching bad guy, each episode delivered a new corrupt operator, a crooked driver, a crime boss using racing as cover, a hired saboteur with a specific target. These weren't goofy cartoon villains. They were menacing, scheming, and often genuinely dangerous. The racing world they populated felt authentically rotten, which made Speed's wins feel like they meant something. In the very last episode of the series, the villain was Mr. Wily, a racer notorious for dirty tricks. As a final opponent, he was almost too perfect thematically. Raw talent bent toward shortcuts, placed directly in the path of a hero who refused to bend. He wasn't the most memorable villain in the series overall, but for a finale, the matchup made sense in a way that felt intentional. The show's real darkness, though, was something most American fans never got to see in full, because the people editing the US broadcast made sure of it.
There! Now the Mach 5 has Pop's special grip tire system for mountain areas.
The Story, Part 2, The Journey and Ending. The most memorable episodes and arcs. Speed Racer ran for 52 episodes, and across that run, it burned certain images permanently into the brains of an entire generation. The show had a reliable rhythm. Speed enters a race, something criminal is happening beneath the surface, the Mach 5 gets pushed to its limit, and justice arrives at the finish line. It's a simple formula, but it was executed with such consistent intensity that kids couldn't look away. The episodes involving Racer X were always the ones that sparked the most playground debate. Racer X was a mysterious, masked rival driver, faster than almost anyone on the circuit, morally ambiguous, and clearly connected to Speed in ways the show never fully explained. Every kid who watched had the same question burning in the back of their mind. Who is he, really? The show gave you just enough to form a theory, but never closed the door. That unresolved mystery had a way of staying with you, like a question you kept almost answering. The emotional core of the series, for many fans, the thing that still gets them as adults, was the layered story of Rex Racer, Speed's older brother who had left the family under a cloud of unspoken conflict. The show strongly implied, without ever confirming outright, that Racer X and Rex Racer were the same person. A brother watching over Speed from behind a mask, sacrificing his own identity to protect his family without them ever knowing. The fact that it was never confirmed was part of the genius of it. It lived in the space between what you suspected and what you were never told, which is exactly where the most powerful stories tend to live. For a cartoon aimed at children, that's genuinely moving storytelling. It's the kind of thing that makes adults rewatch the show 30 years later and feel something they weren't expecting.
I'm in the middle of a race, Trixie. Don't talk to me now. Can't you wait till it's over?
The Deleted Darkness, What America Never Saw. This is where Speed Racer becomes something much more fascinating than a simple nostalgia piece. The original Japanese series, Mach Go Go Go, was not a children's cartoon in the way American broadcasters chose to treat it. It carried real darkness, characters who died on screen, visible blood, and moments of genuine psychological weight that the US broadcast systematically removed or recontextualized. The clearest example is the American episode known as The Car Hater. In the original Japanese version, a character consumed by grief attempts self-immolation, deliberately, out of despair. That's what the scene is. In the US version, the exact same footage was redubbed and reframed as an accidental explosion. The tragedy became a mishap. The intent was erased entirely. American kids saw a man caught in an accident. Japanese kids saw a man in psychological collapse. Same animation. Completely different story. That was the template across the entire US broadcast run. Death was softened to injury. Blood was removed. Intentional acts became accidents. The show you watched as a kid was a carefully curated version of something rawer and more honest about what it actually costs to live a dangerous life. It's a little like finding out the movie you grew up loving had an entire act cut before it reached your theater, and the missing act was the most powerful part.
Well, what's the matter? Why are we coming to a stop?
It's just my idea of fair play.
The final episodes, how it ended. Speed Racer didn't end with a grand finale. There was no epic send-off, no tearful farewell, no resolution of the Racer X mystery or any of the deeper family threads. The final episode, both in Japan and in the United States, was The Trick Race, Part 2. Episode 52. A self-contained racing story. Speed faces Mr. Wily, the dirty trick specialist. Speed wins. Wily gets arrested. The crowd cheers. Speed celebrates with his family. And that was it. No unresolved threads from that specific episode. It closes cleanly. The Japanese series had simply run its scheduled 52 episodes and reached its planned conclusion. It wasn't cancelled, wasn't killed by ratings, didn't end in some chaotic network shakeup. It finished its run and stopped, the way a lot of Japanese anime of that era simply did. Whether that feels unsatisfying or quietly right probably depends on what you were looking for from the show.
There's a terrific S-curve and a hairpin turn. 20 more laps and you'll be used to it, Speed.
The ending fans wish they had gotten. The question that never quite goes away is this: what would it have looked like if Speed Racer had been given the finale it actually earned? The Racer X storyline, the masked older brother watching over Speed in silence, sacrificing his own identity for a love he could never express openly, was never resolved on screen. Speed never found out. The family was never reunited around that truth. That's the real unfinished business of the series. Not a cliffhanger exactly, but an emotional thread that generations of fans have kept pulling at. The show's most powerful story, a brother's quiet, anonymous sacrifice, was left permanently unspoken between the people who most needed to say it and hear it. Mach Go 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 never gave us that scene, and it's been sitting in the back of fans' heads for nearly 60 years.
If you were any kind of decent man, you'd go to the police and tell them.
The legacy and revival attempts. Speed Racer never really went away. The original series ran in syndication for decades, finding new audiences long after its original broadcast run ended. In 2008, the Wachowski siblings, coming off the Matrix trilogy, brought it to the big screen in a live-action film that went visually bigger than anything the source material had ever attempted.
I love that
Emil
movie.
Hirsch played Speed, and the film was a psychedelic, color-saturated love letter to the cartoon. It divided audiences and underperformed at the box office, but it found a devoted cult following in the years since, particularly among the people who actually grew up watching the original. Whatever its commercial fate, it clearly cared about the source material, and that affection comes through on screen. Various revival and remastered releases over the years have kept the property alive and circulating. The show's opening theme remains one of the most recognizable pieces of television music in American history. If you played the first 3 notes right now to any man between 35 and 65 in this country, his head would come up immediately. That kind of staying power doesn't happen by accident. It means the thing touched something real, something that doesn't fade just because the animation was limited or the dubbing was occasionally absurd. Speed Racer was never really about racing. It was about a young man choosing integrity over shortcuts in a world that kept rewarding people who cheated. That message came through even in the most action-heavy episodes, and it's probably a big part of why the show has lasted as long as it has. Speed Racer roared onto American screens in 1967, gave us 52 episodes of racing, family, honor, and hidden darkness, and then crossed its final finish line without so much as a wave goodbye. It was the Evel Knievel of cartoons, death-defying, slightly dangerous, and completely impossible to look away from. For a whole generation of kids, Speed wasn't just a character they watched on Saturday mornings. He was a kind of standard they didn't know they were absorbing. A reminder that how you win matters as much as whether you win. That integrity isn't just a nice idea, but the actual point, and that behind every masked stranger on the road, there might just be someone who loves you more than you'll ever know. Which character did you connect with most? Were you a Speed, charging hard, playing it straight no matter what it cost? A Spritle, always finding your way into the adventure whether anyone wanted you there or not? Or did Racer X always have a particular hold on you?
So that was You'll Never Look at Speed Racer the Same Way Again. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm going to be honest here. I've never watched the cartoon series, and the only experience with Speed Racer that I've ever had is the 2008 movie, which I really loved. Since the 1966 Japanese manga Mach Go Go Go, numerous other companies have released Speed Racer comics, like Now Comics, DC Wildstorm, IDW Publishing, and Mad Cave Studios. Seeing that I've also got all the episodes of Speed Racer, I really want to watch the series now. This is an absolutely legendary series, and I cannot wait to start. And a word of wisdom for today. If you are a racer, race according to the rules. If you are an everyday driver on the road, drive safely and responsibly. Have a blessed day further, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.